Hey there, Canonites, welcome back. Well, I said to keep your eyes open and fingers crossed this weekend, and it seems like the Forerunners have seen fit to bless us with a ton of Halo toy information and pictures from the New York Toy Fair, constituting a big preview of what we can expect from Halo Infinite later this year. Now, along with all that excitement, I've seen a lot of confusion or speculation about certain reveals and what they can mean that warrant a discussion and tempering of expectations. So with that, let's dive in and take a look at all this stuff that's coming out later this year. Starting things out, we'll take a look at the 3 Mega Construx sets that were revealed on Friday: the Mongoose, the Warthog, and the Pelican. Starting out with the Mongoose, all that's really noteworthy is that the Infinite design seems to be using the same one from Halo 5. Not much else to say. Next we have the Warthog, which we can see uses the 343 body design with the added railing and detailed suspension, but the turret is definitely more Bungie era. The Warthog immediately epitomizes a lot of what we'll be seeing as we go forward, a merging of new and old designs. 343 isn't simply throwing out everything they developed over the last 10 years, but are finding a solid middle ground between old and new, for lack of a better phrase. This is very exciting for me, as someone who's enjoyed a lot of the things 343 has done. Now going back to the Warthog, a lot of fans noticed that the windshield extends a lot further forward than it had on previous models, though this could just be a result of the Mega Block's design. But in addition, it seems to have an exposed engine under the glass. I'll be curious to see what that's all about. With that though, we come to our last set, the Pelican. Sporting a much more Bungie-inspired design, a lot of fans have been very pleased with what we're seeing. And if you zoom in on the cockpit, you can vaguely make out a set of hands, meaning we'll almost certainly be getting a Brohammer figure with this set release. It'll be interesting to see if 343 reveals the pilot's name before this set comes out, or if that reveal will come with this or some other toy. One thing in particular that stands out here, but is visible on the Warthog as well, is the UNSC logo. At a first glance, it looks to be a reversion to the old design. However, a careful comparison between this logo and the one used in the Bungie games reveals some subtle differences, so it isn't, strictly speaking, the old logo returned. 343 have always been fairly close-lipped about this sort of stuff, so I don't expect a solid explanation, but fingers crossed we might get something. Now, as cool as all these sets are, what I think really got people talking are some of the alternate models that Mega previewed. Each set has an alternate build, such as the Pelican becoming a firebase, but the standouts were the Mongoose and Warthog alt builds, becoming a jet ski and gunboat, respectively. These designs look to be directly inspired by old concept art for Halo CE, the jet ski looking a lot like the Dozy concept here, and the boat, of course, looking like the old gunboat design. In fact, Marcus Lato, who drew up the boat design, commented on how much he loved seeing this old design realized like this. Now, the reason I bring these up is that these designs have caused a lot of speculation that water combat may appear in Halo Infinite. These are sets for Infinite, so it makes sense on some level. However, it's important to keep in mind that alt builds like these are mostly there to add additional playability, possibly even encourage fans to buy more than one of each set. I know I'm certainly tempted to do so. Mega also has a lot of free reign to make stuff like this that isn't directly related to the games or the media, just, extra designs. There are a lot of sets out there with combiner or alternate builds that never appear in any Halo media, let alone the games. So while we can't rule out water combat entirely, I would encourage everyone to temper expectations. By which I mean set expectations to 0 so you aren't disappointed if nothing comes of this. Hope for it if you want, but don't expect it. Now, I'd say that does it for the Mega Construx side of things, and we've obviously already talked about the Halo Nerf guns, so that just leaves the offering by Wicked Cool Toys, and lucky for us all, the Legendary117 and MrsLegendary117 were in attendance on Saturday and allowed to take a ton of pictures of the toys coming out later this year. Before we dive into that, a huge thanks to both Mr. and Mrs. Legendary117. You can find them both on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and both are worth following, I can personally attest. Although, I think the images to come are going to sell you better than anything my words can do. And before we dive in, I need to note that everything we look at is subject to change before their release, which in some cases is a good thing, as you'll see. Second, while almost all of the boxes for these say Halo Infinite, that doesn't necessarily mean that everything we see will appear in Halo Infinite. Look no further than the Carter A259 cosplay helmet and the Cat B320 figure. Unless there's some weird Easter egg or 343 are heavily breaking canon, I doubt we'll see either of them in Infinite. So again, just keep all that in mind as we jump through all these images. We'll start things out with all the basic stuff on the top shelves here. Starting on the right, we have this high quality Master Chief helmet collectible. No idea if it's wearable, though I imagine it would be. That seems to defeat the purpose if it's not. And I'll be curious to see if it's 1-to-1 scale, but regardless, it looks damn nice and certainly throws me back to the days of Halo 3. I don't remember the exact scale, but I know the Halo 3 Legendary Edition helmet isn't the exact size of the Chief's helmet in-game. I want to say it's something like 1/4 scale, but don't quote me on that. To the left of those, we have some masks for Palmer, Chief, and Carter, then an energy sword. The sword looks to be very Reach-inspired, and I hope that's not indicative of the final energy sword in Halo Infinite. I'm personally not the biggest fan of Reach's take on the energy sword, but anyway. From there we can dive into the figures themselves, and boy is there a lot to break down. Going in no particular order, we start with this blue Spartan and Elite. The Spartan looks to be wearing basic Mark 5B armor, nothing too special. This might just be a random Spartan set rather than anything we could expect to see in Halo Infinite, but what really catches my eye is the weapon. This looks to be a new version of the Hydra from Halo 5, something more streamlined and geometric. So maybe this Spartan will be representative of something we see in Infinite, I can't say. Regardless, I'm loving the new Hydra design. Next, we have the Elite, which again looks to be a mix of old and new designs. We don't have a close-up of its face, so we can't determine whether it's using a 343 design or something more like H2A. But the armor is fairly clear. It looks to be a mix of the Halo Reach Elite General and Halo 4 and 5's Elite Warrior. The armor is much more streamlined, less overly detailed, and the feet resemble something more akin to Halo 4 and 5. Again, a beautiful mix of design philosophies. The big question on my mind is whether we'll see elites as friendlies, enemies, or both. I'm hoping largely for friendlies like Halo 3, but maybe some enemy elites thrown in to make things less black and white. We'll see. Before we move on, in the background you can see some figure boxes with placeholder images. One has Chief with the new Hydra design, but the thing that stands out is the card reading, "Villain to be decided." Because I saw this come up a few times on social media, I want to point out that villain likely doesn't refer to an individual character, but likely a group. It's a placeholder for a quote-unquote enemy figure, with a Spartan or Chief being the quote-unquote hero figure. Now, it'll be interesting to see what these enemy figures are, Prometheans, Brutes, some new created enemy, who knows. But don't latch on to the villain part, that's what I'm trying to get across. Moving on, we come to a set that demonstrates my point, as we have a UNSC Marine with a Grunt Miner, I assume it's a miner, the Marine having a neck that would make Welcome to the Ballroom characters jealous. I seriously hope that gets corrected before the final toys come to market. Anyway though, looking at the armor, I think it looks pretty good, a mix of Reach and Halo 4 designs, but damn, the gray on top of that green and yellow just does not do anything for me. Again, I hope this could be corrected before the figure comes to final production. The Marines we saw in the 2018 Infinite trailer look fantastic, so I'm hoping this figure isn't representing the final Marines all that well. What a lot of people are really excited about though is that this Marine, along with a few other figures down the line, is carrying a classic battle rifle. We can't say whether it's the BR-55 from Halo 2 or the BR-55HB from Halo 3, or even a new BR altogether, but classic fans rejoice. I'll personally miss the BR-85, but whatever. Moving on to the Grunt, this is an absolute treat. Again, we have a mix of old and new, with the main body looking like that of the Halo 4 Grunt, easily my least favorite design for them, but the armor looking more in line with the classic Grunt combat harness. The mask and face certainly stand out, reminding me a bit of Gaul from Destiny 2, but not in a bad way like the Halo 4 Grunts reminded me of Mini Krogan. I do wish the body used the Halo 5 Grunt design. I feel the very crustacean look 343 went for was damn near perfect, but this design isn't all that bad. After that, we have the Chief with his new Gen 3 armor and a Spanker rocket launcher alongside the new Mongoose, all of which I think look great. And then we have some of the 3.5-inch figures. First up is everyone's favorite Broheem, the Brohammer himself. Remaining nameless for the time being, we can see a bullet hole in his chest armor and him wielding a BR. Not much else to say. Next, we have a look at a Jackal Sniper with a more Rutian, aka Classic Trilogy, design. I'm still hoping we might get a mix of Covenant species designs, maybe the Rutian design used for snipers and the Ebeshian used more for frontline infantry, and maybe even bring back the skirmishers. That would be awesome. Whatever the case, I absolutely love this bug-eyed helmet it has. We then have a chief figure with the new AR, which I'm just going to call the MA40, followed by another Marine figure, and finally a Spartan in very Reach-inspired armor. I'd almost call it a straight-up Reach design, but the shoulders and helmet make it apparent that it's not. We'll get a better look at this design in a later picture. Next, we have the chief figure with the new Warthog. Interestingly, unlike the Mega Construx version, this turret actually features the post-war UNSC logo, rather than the war-era looking one. After that, we have the 6.5-inch figures, starting with what looks like a Mark 5B Halo Reach figure wielding an MA40. Again, this could appear in Infinite, but equally, and I think more likely, it's just a Reach figure. Looking at the box behind it, we can see it's going to be part of the Spartan collection. My guess is that this will just be a line of figures focusing on Spartans and Mjolnir, some from Infinite, but not all. We can also see that it has an in-game code, likely for Infinite. So like Halo 5 and even Halo 4 to an extent, these figures will come with game codes. For what will be the interesting part. If I recall correctly, the Halo 5 codes were just rec packs, like low-level bronze ones. As real money loot boxes have been ruled out, I'll be curious what sort of unlocks, if any, come with these figures. A few Halo 4 figures had weapon and armor skins, so maybe something like that, but there was also the double XP promotion with Mountain Dew and Doritos that Halo 4 had. So maybe it's going to be multiplayer XP, we'll see. The next figure is one I'm very excited to look at, a red-clad Spartan wearing the same armor we saw in the 3.5-inch white Spartan. We also see it as a 12-inch figure. The look here may very well be the new default armor for Spartan 4s. Again, very Reach-inspired, but the helmet is very clearly a different design, as are the shoulder pieces. And interestingly, the forearm armor looks to be inspired by Halo CE's Mark V. So damn if that isn't the coolest design callback. In addition, in the lore, it is said that Mark 7 armor was used as the test bed for Gen 3 developments, and the one suit of Mark 7 we saw was Naomi's, who kept it in a Mark 5B configuration. So I can't help but wonder if that, both in universe and in real life, is the reason why this armor, which I presume is Gen 3, looks so much like Mark 5B. There's not much else to say at this point, but I am loving what we're seeing here. It's going to be very interesting to see how armor customization is handled in Halo Infinite, and I cannot wait. Moving on, we have the Cat B320 figure I mentioned earlier, carrying a pistol and a Spartan laser. The paint job on Cat looks fantastic, probably the best it's looked since the McFarlane figures, and the Splazer looks to be a new design, featuring an all-gray color scheme. It's very possible though this isn't the final design. As I've said from the start, everything here is pending approval from 343, and not everything, if anything, is final. Closing out this particular line of figures, we have the Chief, wielding a pistol, and the MA40. We wrap up our Toy Fair coverage with a look at the 12-inch figures. We have the Marine and Spartan that we already talked about, along with a Chief figure. The last one in this line, though, is Spartan Tanaka, which has led to a lot of speculation about whether she'll appear in Halo Infinite. While it's always possible, I wouldn't take her appearance at Toy Fair to be any sort of confirmation. As with the Cat figure and the Carter helmet, it's entirely possible, and I'd even say probable, that she's just another Spartan in this line of figures, not necessarily reflective of what we'll see in Infinite. It's a nice looking figure though, and I'd love if Osiris could get some kind of appearance or cameo in Infinite. There's a lot of buzz in certain circles about campaign DLC for Infinite, and I'd love if that turns out to be the case. I'd really like to see Osiris get another chance, maybe even with Gabriel Thorne this time. But whatever the case, that brings to an end our coverage of the New York Toy Fair, at least as far as Halo goes. There are a ton of cool sets on the horizon, and I can't wait to get my hands on many of them, and I'm even more eager to see what Halo Infinite's assets are going to look like in-game. Some of the figures, notably the Marine and the 12-inch figures in general, could use a bit of work, to put it mildly. The proportions look all wrong and elongated to me, just like the Mattel figures, but still, overall, I'm liking what I'm seeing from Wicked Cool Toys. I can't wait to see more. So, what did you think of the figures shown, and what do you think of the designs for Halo Infinite that we've seen? Let me know in the comments below. In addition, don't forget to check out TheLegendary117 and MrsLegendary117 on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Show them some appreciation for taking all of these pictures and sharing them with those of us that couldn't be in attendance. And again, an even bigger thank you to them both for letting me use them in this video. Thank you all for watching, and until next time, this has been Halo Canon. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please consider subscribing, and if you really love me, hit that notification bell and leave a thumbs up. These both really help out the channel. I wouldn't be where I am now without your views and support, so once again, thank you. Keep on being awesome, Canonites.